text number 8. Okay, if everyone can repeat. Does everyone have their books out?
I have to get a large print one, but I don't have one because I have to figure out how to get a large print one to work correctly.
Oh, yes, yes.
I can get it on the computer, but I have to find a way that I can do Alt Tab between the video call and the large print on the computer screen. So I have to just make it large enough for me to be able to find the section we're reading quickly, so that I can, I don't want to be fumbling while everybody else is already ready. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So,
well, anyway, even if you miss the Sanskrit, you can hear it. And what I'd recommend is try to repeat it. Even if you don't have it written in front of you and you can say it perfectly, you just make an attempt at repeating what you hear. Natumam sakya se drastum.
Natumam
Anenaiva svachakshusha. Divyam dadami te chakshu.
Divyam dadami te kakshu.
Pasyame yogam aisvaram.
Pasyame yogam aishvaram.
Natumam shakya se drastum.
Natumam shakya se drashtum.
Anenaiva svachakshusha.
Anayna vacha shakshusa.
Divyam dadami te chakshu.
Divyam dadami
Pasyame yogam aishvaram.
Pasyame
Natumam shaksha se drastum.
Natumam drashtum.
Anenaiva svachakshusha. Divyam dadami te chakshu. Pasyame yogam aishvaram. Chant.
Natumam shakya se drashtum.
Natumam shakya se drastum.
Anayna vacha shakshusha.
Anenaiva svachakshusha.
Divyam dadami te kakshu.
Divyam dadami te chakshu.
Pasyame yogam aishvaram.
Pasyame yogam aishvaram.
Natumam chakshe drashtumam.
Natumam chakshase drashtum.
Aneva svachakshusha.
Anenaiva svachakshusha.
Divyam dadami te chakshu.
Divyam dadami te chakshu.
Pasyame yogam aishvaram.
Pasyame yogam aishvaram.
Natumam chakyase drashtum.
Natumam
chakshe drashtumam.
Naiva swachakshushaha.
Anayna
Dadami te chakshu.
Divyam
Divyam te chakshu.
Pasyame yogamaishvaram.
Pasyame yogameshwaram.
Na.
Na.
Never.
Na.
Never.
Never.
Two.
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 but,
but,
mum,
mum,
me,
me,
chakshase,
akshase,
are able,
are able,
drastum,
drastum,
to see,
to see,
anena,
anena,
with these,
with
these,
eva,
eva,
certainly,
certainly,
achakshusha,
achakshusha,
your own eyes,
your own eyes,
divyam,
divyam,
divine,
divine,
dadami,
dadami,
I give,
I give,
te,
they,
to you,
to you,
chakshu,
chakshu,
eyes,
eyes,
pasya,
pasya,
see,
the,
may,
they,
no, may,
may, thank you,
my,
my,
yogam aisvaram,
yogam aisvaram,
inconceivable mystic power,
inconceivable mystic power.
translation, everyone could be muted now. But you cannot see me with your present eyes. Therefore, I give you divine eyes. Behold my mystic opulence. Purport, Srila Prabhupada. A pure devotee is not like to see Krishna in any form except his form with two hands. A devotee must see his universal form by his grace, not with the mind, but with spiritual eyes. To see the universal. Can you mute everyone? Because I can hear somebody. Some kids. I hear kids in the background. I don't know. I was talking to him to mute, but maybe he can do it if he's not. You don't? Oh, do we give you control? Okay. How do we give him control?
Make him co-host.
How do we do that again?
Oh.
On the top? Make co-host.
We got you.
And then did you pick him?
Yeah.
You did? Okay, so you can mute everyone. Okay, back to the purport. I'll read what I read again. A pure devotee does not. A devotee must see his universal form by his, capital H, by his grace, not with the mind, but with spiritual eyes. So it's interesting, I'm going to go over the purport as I go along, but it's not with the mind. It's not something imagined. You close your eyes and you see this universal form. No, you actually see it, but you have to have spiritual eyes to see it. Now you might say, Arjun, he has spiritual eyes. He's seeing Krishna. Yes, but these are a downgrade of spiritual eyes. Okay. To see the universal form of Krishna, Arjuna is told not to change his mind, but his vision. The universal form of Krishna is not very important. That will be clear in subsequent verses. Yet, because Arjuna wanted to see it, the Lord gives him the particular vision required to see that universal form. Now, even that, because Arjuna wants to see it. Why does he want to see it? He wants to see it just for Krishna, to spread Krishna consciousness and to defeat bogus people who claim to be God. They can't show the universal form, how are they God? Or show the universal form, then they can prove they are God. But he's not doing this for some whimsical reason because, hey, yeah, I'd like to see it. What does it look like? It's not like that at all. He's doing it as a service, as his service, because also he's the beginning of the parampara here, because we learned in the 4th chapter that he passed this message on to the sun god, and this the cyclic succession. It was broken, and now it's starting again with Arjuna. So Arjuna wants to show that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, not just philosophically, not just because it says it in the books, but he's actually doing something. Of course, you can go back a little further, and why does he have to show his universal form? Because he's already lifted Govardhan Hill. I don't know why that doesn't count as being God, because it does count as being God. So I'm not positive, but this is something, because you can question some bogus person to say, well, lift Govardhan Hill. Well, that's all. It's in India. It's not near here. When I go, I'll lift it. They can say all kinds of bogus things, but wherever they are, they can show the universal form. So this is a good test to find out if somebody is really the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Of course, most Westerners who make claim to be God won't even know what the universal form is. So that's enough to know they're not God, because God's all-knowing, doesn't even know what it is. Okay, now I'm going to read the next. Well, I'll read the next paragraph. Devotees who are correctly situated in a transcendental relationship with Krishna are attracted by loving features, not by a godless display of opulences. The playmates of Krishna, the friends of Krishna, and the parents of Krishna never want Krishna to show his opulences. They are so immersed in pure love that they do not even know that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. They don't know it, and they don't want to know it. They don't care to know it. They're so happy with Krishna in their relationship. They don't want him to change in any way. Sometimes if people get a lot of money, they change. Different things change people. So obviously, Krishna has all opulence, and not just money. He has everything. He's the richest. He has everything. Anything he wants, he can have. But he lives real simple. As just a cowherd boy. Even as a baby, getting dragged around by holding a cow's tail and getting dragged around in the courtyard. So in their loving exchange, they forget that Krishna is the Supreme Lord. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, it is stated that the boys who play with Krishna are all highly pious souls. And after many, many births, they are able to play with Krishna. So these are not just ordinary boys. They are the most advanced spiritual beings there are, and they get to take that place as a cowherd boy to play with Krishna. I mean, there are others. There's the parents. There's other people who have different relationships with Krishna, but Srila Prabhupada is picking out here the cowherd boys and also the parents. So such boys do not know that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. They take him as a personal friend. Therefore, Sukadeva Goswami recites this verse: Itam satam brahma sukhan nubhutya dasyam gatanam paradaivatena maya shritanam naradarakena sakam vijaru krita punya pujaha. Here, this is the quote from this verse from the Bhagavatam, 10th canto, 12th chapter, text 11. Here is the Supreme Person who is considered the impersonal Brahman by great sages, the Supreme Personality of Godhead by devotees, and a product of material nature by ordinary men. Now these boys who have performed many, many pious activities in their past lives are playing with that Supreme Personality of Godhead. Bhagavatam 10, 12, 11. The fact is that the devotee is not concerned with seeing the Vishvarupa, that's the universal form. But Arjuna wanted to see it to substantiate Krishna's statements so that in the future people could understand that Krishna not only theoretically or philosophically presented himself as the Supreme, but actually presented himself as such to Arjuna. Arjuna must confirm this because Arjuna is the beginning of the Parampara system. Those who are actually interested in understanding the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, and who follow in the footsteps of Arjuna, should understand that Krishna not only theoretically presented himself as the supreme, but actually revealed himself as the supreme. The Lord gave Arjuna the necessary power to see his universal form because he knew that Arjuna did not particularly want to see it, as we have already explained. But he gave him his power because he wanted to see it as his way of serving Krishna. Sometimes devotees may do something, it depends on what you do, but if you're doing it for Krishna, it's always perfect. Even if it seems, why does he want to see his universal form? People can question, but it's not because he really wants to see it. He wants to do it as a service to Krishna. So in the future, bogus people can't claim to be God, or they can claim to be God, but then you can ask them to show the universal form. And if they can't do that, then you can see they're not God. So before I go any further, anyone have any questions on what I said? You can unmute on what I said so far, or what I read so far. Any questions? We're not looking for comments now, just questions. Well, no?
Did he unmute?
I don't know. People are unmuted, so I guess. Yeah, but they're muted because they chose to be.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Yes.
So I see Arjuna played, I think, two kind of role. One role for himself to get the knowledge from Krishna, and second role is to also do a service. So for it is good for future generations, for people like us to understand, as the example you quoted. And if this is my understanding is correct, then when we as a devotee, when we do live, then we should try to like do the same thing, getting the knowledge, as well as do something that others can get inspired from what we do. Is that correct, Prabhuji?
Well, that's correct. The only thing that's not exactly correct is Arjuna getting the knowledge, because he doesn't know this. Arjuna knows this. Arjuna is, he's already knows the whole Bhagavad Gita, you might say, but he was put into illusion by Krishna so that he would have some doubts about fighting this war, so that Krishna would have this opportunity to speak the Bhagavad Gita. So Arjuna's seemingly illusion or not knowing things is only because Krishna temporarily put him this in illusion so that he can use him for speaking Bhagavad Gita. But for us, we should want to learn this, not just for ourselves so that we're smart, but we want to learn it for ourselves so that we can follow these instructions, so we can get purified, we can go back to Godhead, but also so that we can tell others about it. And the telling others about it is not so much, it's just like an extra thing we want to do to repay Krishna, to repay Srila Prabhupada. We have a debt to the spiritual master, and that debt can never be paid. So therefore, we make an effort to pay back that debt by trying to tell others about Krishna consciousness and bringing them back home, back to Godhead with us. Not just that we just want to try to just go back home by ourselves. We want to try to bring as many people as possible. Srila Prabhupada or Lord Chaitanya, he didn't care if he went back to Godhead. He preached to bring back so many people, but he was satisfied taking birth after birth after birth, as long as he's engaged in serving Krishna. So we may not be that, not that we may not, we are not that advanced. So it's okay to want to go back to Godhead, but we should do what we can to bring more people with us. And the best way is by distributing these books so that everyone can hear directly from Srila Prabhupada, from Krishna. Bhagavad Gita as it is, it's the whole disciplic succession. You're hearing Krishna's words and the explanations from the disciplic succession through Srila Prabhupada. So we should feel indebted And we should try to pay back the debt, although you can't pay back a debt for eternal life, free from birth, disease, old age, and death, and just bliss, knowledge, and eternity. So how can you pay anybody for that? But we have to make the effort. So we do want to learn this philosophy for ourselves, so to keep us fixed in Krishna consciousness so we don't fall prey to Maya. And we also want to learn this philosophy for telling others. Does that answer your question?
Yes, Prabhuji, and thank you for clarifying that Arjun, he knows that everything, but Krishna put him into illusion. I think that was really helpful.
Yeah, he's not like us. We don't have to have Krishna put us in illusion. We can do it on our own. Any other comments, questions?
I have a question.
Sure.
Now, please excuse me if this is ignorant in any way, but I'm hearing about, I read the summary study of the Bhagavad Gita, and then I'm realizing that there's a Bhagavad Gita with purports, and it expands so much more than the translation does. And I'm noticing that Srila Prabhupada wrote many, many, many books, and he translated many, many different literatures. And I guess my question is that when he expands upon the Bhagavad Gita in his purports, is he pulling from other translated texts that he's provided to us, or is he pulling from texts that he hasn't had a chance to translate yet, that are, knowledge that he's pulled from in various Vedic literatures that are either, I guess my question is, are those literatures translated for our use, or are some of those literatures that he expanded the Bhagavad Gita with in some place in the Bhagavad Gita itself that we just couldn't process because we didn't learn Sanskrit? Or are they possibly in? Thank you.
Let me try answering it before you go any further, because I'll get more confused and I won't be able to answer anything. Srila Prabhupada, when he wrote the Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, different literatures, in his purports, there are other saintly people, pure devotees, who in the past have commented on the different verses. And he very much goes according to what their comments are and explains their comments in simple English so that we can understand. So he doesn't just, he also writes his own things too, giving his own examples, but he follows the commentaries by the past acharyas. Acharyas are saintly persons who live by example. So he follows their commentaries. Vishwanatha Chakravarti Thakur, and Baladev Vijayabhushan. Yeah, Rupa Goswami, Sanatan Goswami. So he takes from these other great devotees who have written books, and he comments using that. Does that answer your question?
It actually answers it so perfectly that I have another question now that you've answered this one. And you can tell me not if it's too much, but may I ask another question?
Try to keep it short and direct.
Yes, of course. So are these previous spiritual, forgive me, I don't know the words for them, but the people that Prabhupada is adding on top of with bringing in their writings. I'm wondering if they were, I know some people can perceive Krishna's messages, right? After they've developed themselves in an extreme amounts of devotion. I'm wondering if a lot of these writings have been sent down into their brains directly from him through visions and psychic perceptions because of their evolution.
Definitely a lot of it is. A lot of it is. Actually, I'm going to read one thing. I have a lot of things written down here. There was one thing that might help in this. Yes, I mentioned Srila Vishwanatha Chakravarti Thakur. This is what he says about this particular verse, or part of what he says. he poses and then answers the following question. So this is one of the acharyas that Prabhupada follows in his writings. Why should Arjuna, who directly perceives with his own eyes the sweetness of the Supreme Person, be unable to perceive a partial expansion of the Lord and need to receive divine eyes? So that's a question he proposes. He sees Krishna with his own eyes, which is the sweetness of the Supreme Person, but he's unable to perceive a partial expansion of the Lord and needs to receive divine eyes. So then he answers, some explain this by saying that those most excellent eyes which perceive the sweetness of the Supreme Person's human pastimes are exclusive in their scope or perception. So those eyes he has are exclusive to only see the wonderful pastimes, human-like pastimes of Lord Krishna, are exclusive scope of perception. They do not perceive the opulence of the Lord's godlike pastimes. After all, a tongue tasting crystal sugar cannot simultaneously experience the taste of unrefined gore or sugarcane. And that's his quote. So he comes up with this question and then he answers the question. And he gets realization. Krishna tells us things. The purer we are, if we're completely pure, it's just like two people talking or one person listening. It says that there are two birds in the heart. One is eating the fruits of the tree, and the other bird is just witnessing, watching this bird eat the fruits of the tree. The bird eating the fruits of the tree is us, is the conditioned soul. And we're eating these fruits, trying to enjoy material world. But the other bird is witnessing. And then at some point, a fortunate soul turns, that parrot or that bird turns and looks at Krishna. And then Krishna can instruct him. So Krishna can instruct us in our heart. He's in our heart and he can instruct us, just that we aren't pure yet to receive that instruction. But we are pure to receive something. Maybe not always, but sometimes things can get through. Even for everyone, anyone who has any sincerity at all can experience Krishna telling him something from his heart. But these pure devotees, they can hear so much from Krishna. And they've written about it. Their whole life is only Krishna. I like this example that he gave. Why should Arjuna, who directly perceives with his own eyes the sweetness of the Supreme Person, be unable to perceive a partial expansion of the Lord and need to receive divine eyes? Some explain this by saying that those most excellent eyes which perceive the sweetness of the Supreme Person's human pastimes are exclusive in their scope or perception. They do not perceive the opulence of the Lord's godlike pastimes. After all, a tongue tasting crystal sugar cannot simultaneously experience the taste of unrefined gore or sugarcane. So those who have had gore, which are most of the Indian people, it's not exactly the same. I mean, I like gore. and personally, the crystal sugar is just too sweet for me, but maybe I should go for the universal form.
It reminds me of Murari Gupta.
Huh?
It reminds me of Murari Gupta.
Okay, hold on. Say it.
In Chaitanya Leela, Murari Gupta is Hanuman. And Lord Chaitanya himself is right there in front of Murari Gupta, and he's trying to convince Murari Gupta to accept Krishna and to serve Krishna. But Murari Gupta, he understands that Krishna is the Supreme Lord, but he cannot deviate from his worshipful Lord, who is Lord Ram. And he has quite a dilemma because he knows Lord Chaitanya is also God, but he can't, waver from his devotion to Ram. And then he goes back to Lord Chaitanya, and Lord Chaitanya actually glorifies him, how he is so fixed in his love for Ram that he cannot be swayed. That it reminds me of that. He has a different taste. It's God, but in a different flavor, like the sugar.
This is a beautiful description, Jiva. I'm very grateful to you because it verifies something that I thought I received. So I'm very grateful to you for saying that. You're very wonderful.
Okay, so I'm going to read just a little something. Okay, you cannot see me with your present eyes, therefore I give you divine eyes. Behold my mystic opulence. That's the verse. Krishna uses the word divine to describe the divine eyes or vision he will award Arjuna to enable him to behold his universal form. Srila Prabhupada further explains this in his purport to Srimad Bhagavatam 2.124, which I'm going to read in a few minutes. A pure devotee of the Lord, being unaccustomed to looking into such a mundane, gigantic form of the Lord, requires special vision for the purpose. Now, this verse 2.124, it says, this is the Bhagavatam now, this gigantic manifestation of the phenomenal material world as a whole is the personal body of the absolute truth, wherein the universal resultant past, present, and future of material time is experienced. So you can see everything in this universal form, past, present, and future. So you can imagine, how do you see past, present, and future? Looking at some person, we see George Washington, you see him when he's born, you also see him when he's president, you also see him when he's turns to ashes. I mean, I don't know how you see it, but how can you picture? You can't possibly picture, even in your mind, how you can see this universal form. It's almost, I mean, the circus tries to, they have a 3-ring circus and they have all different things going on at the same time, and it's not possible to see everything. So you can imagine looking at this universal form, which is so bewildering. It's not like everything is just going on and you're seeing it all, but you're seeing it also as it was going on in the past, in the present, and in the future. That's really inconceivable. How can you possibly see that? But somehow or other, you're able to see it. Krishna can give you the eyes so that you can see it. And it's not very palatable. Arjuna doesn't like seeing it. By the end, he wants to see him back in his 2-armed form. He doesn't want to see this form anymore. It's scary. Okay, anything, either material or spiritual, is but an expansion of the energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So this universal form, it's just the energy of the Lord. So it's spiritual. Ultimately, everything is spiritual because it's coming from Krishna. The relative world is also his phenomenal representation because it is nothing but an expansion of his transcendental energy. Although he is in his abode, his energy is distributed everywhere, just as the sun is localized as well as expanded everywhere. So the sun, you can see the sun in the sky, but you can also see the sun rays. So the sun rays is nothing but a representative of the sun, and it's everywhere. So Krishna's material energy also goes everywhere, although he's located in Krishna Loka, in his own abode. Less intelligent men cannot conceive of the transcendental all spiritual form of the Lord. So people, they can't conceive of the transcendental all spiritual form of the Lord, but they are astounded by his different energies, just as the Aborigines are struck with wonder by the manifestation of lightning, a gigantic mountain, or a hugely expanded banyan tree. So the Aborigines like amazed by these material things. So less intelligent men, they're not amazed by seeing his transcendental form. They can't see it. But even if they see it, it's nothing. They want to see something extraordinary. So therefore, they can see the universal form. this will impress them, and this will also help them to make some progress so that maybe ultimately they can come to see the form of Krishna. The Aborigines praised the strength of the tiger and the elephant because of their superior energy and strength. The asuras are demons, cannot recognize the existence of the Lord, although there are vivid descriptions of the Lord in the revealed scriptures. So there's all these descriptions, but they still can't recognize him. But if they see something extraordinary, then they're impressed. Lord Krishna, by the request of Arjuna, exhibited his Virat Rupa for the asuras. He did it for the demons. A pure devotee of the Lord, being unaccustomed to looking into such a mundane, gigantic form of the Lord, requires special vision for the purpose. This Virat Rupa of the Lord was especially manifested not for the benefit of Arjuna, but for that unintelligent class of men who accept anyone and everyone as an incarnation of the Lord and so mislead the general mass of people. For them, the indication is that one should ask the cheap incarnation to exhibit his Virat Rupa and thus be established as an incarnation. So Krishna not only said so many nice things, so much philosophy, so many people accepting him, but he showed his Virat Rupa. So if you want to really prove that you're God, show your Virat Rupa. So the Virat Rupa manifestation of the Lord is a favor for the asuras, for the demons, who can think of the Lord as the Virat and thus gradually cleanse the dirty things from their hearts in order to become qualified to actually see the transcendental form of the Lord in the near future. This is a favor of the all-merciful Lord to the atheist and the gross materialist. So, any questions? Some people are unmuted. Billy, no.
I'm grateful for your explanation. It's very nice. It's very helpful.
Well, that's not that. What I was reading was mostly not my explanation. This was a purport Srila Prabhupada gave to another verse, but a verse in the Bhagavatam about the universal form. 2:124.
But there were other clarifications that I'm thankful for, as well as you reading
I did
those
add a
too.
little something.
Thank you globally. How about that? Thank you. Very nice.
Well, thank you universally.
It's funny.
So anyone else have any questions or comments?
How many want to see the universe?
No question, Prabhuji.
No question. Well, at least I know one person doesn't have a question. I don't know about everybody else. Nobody has questions.
What about Zeke?
What?
Zeke.
Zeke, no questions, Zeke?
No, I'm all set. I'm listening. I thought I was muted.
No, I don't, you're not muted. Okay. So what else? I don't want to read another verse. There's not enough time. There's only 15 minutes left.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, this is Manishi.
Hello, what?
This is Manishi. Prabhuji, I have a question, not from today, like the evening class. I have a question from the morning Bhagavatam class. Can I ask that question?
So you're a little slow, huh?
I wanted to ask, but we were already running late, so I did not ask that time. Can I ask a question now?
Sure.
Yeah. So we were reading that Parikshit Maharaj, not just getting a glass of water, he put around a dead neck for Sanaka Rishi.
Yeah, he came in because he was thirsty. Even that in itself was done by Krishna, because a pure devotee doesn't even have this, like he feels such a push for thirst. He normally would control it, but it was Krishna's arrangements for him to feel very thirsty. So he did go in hoping to get some water. Now I'll let you continue.
Yes. So despite being a great devotee and a great king, he did that, and at the next moment we see that being cursed by Shringi, he accepted that
Wishing
curse.
you well.
What? Oh, can you mute others?
I'm sorry, I thought I had it muted. Sorry.
Okay. So, despite being cursed, he had an option of nullify the curse, but still he went ahead and accepted the curse. So, what do we understand? Like, at one moment, being a great devotee, he did something which was like, he couldn't maybe control his anger, and he did like put around a dead snake around Sanaka Rishi's head, and then for the next moment, he is accepting the curse. So, what do we learn from that?
First of all, it wasn't the next moment. After he put the snake around his head, he left. And when he left, he was thinking about it. Was this Shamak Rishi, was he really in trance, or was he faking trance? Was he faking the trance? Was he just doing that just because he didn't want to do anything? And then he kind of realized that he probably was really in trance, and that he put this snake on him and he committed an offense, and he thought, whatever Krishna wants to do to me, or whatever punishment I deserve because of this offense, just give it to me right away. Let it happen to me right away. This is the way he was thinking before Shringi cursed him. He started, and it says that a great person, when he commits a sin or he commits an offense, he immediately feels regretful. Whereas there are other people who commit so many things, terrible things, and they never feel bad about it at all. But for a devotee, when he does something wrong, he feels regret immediately, and he wants to try to correct it. Even a devotee who doesn't do something wrong, but a person thinks he did something wrong, he tries to straighten that out also. So then later, Shringi went and he found this out from his father, because Shringi wasn't there at the time. And then he went, apparently he went to a river. There must have been a river nearby, and he touched the water in the river, and he cursed Maharaj Parikshit to die within 7 days from a snake bird. So it wasn't just that immediately. And now, and he did regret it even before he got cursed. And he knew, because he committed an offense, there's going to be reaction, and he wants to take his reaction. So that's another reason he accepted this curse, because he already concluded that whatever the reaction is, I'm accepting it. So now he's not going to say, hey, I didn't know it was going to be that big a reaction. I'm going to change my mind. I don't know if that makes sense to you.
Yes, Prabhu.
I don't know if I'm answering your question, because I don't remember exactly what it was.
No, Prabhu, it perfectly answers my question. Thank you, Prabhu.
Okay, any questions on today's class or this morning's class? The morning class, for those who don't know about it or didn't know about it, once a month we would have a class here at the temple. So, and it was on a Saturday, the first Saturday of each month. Now we're actually thinking of having a Bhagavatam class every Saturday at 8 in the morning. So, but we will have to email, and the Zoom now, because Zoom was kind of compromised, some problems people had hacking in. Starting tomorrow, everyone's going to have to have this certain password and stuff to get on. I'm not sure how it's working, but the devotees who taking care of this is going to send something out to everyone for tomorrow's classes. I don't even know what classes are tomorrow, but all I know is during the week, every not Sunday, but every day, 7 p.m. is Bhagavad Gita class. And what's tomorrow? You know?
Sunday.
I know, what time?
Sunday, 4?
4 o'clock tomorrow is the class. Oh, the kids at 2:45. Okay, but that's really for the kids or somebody who's going to help somehow add something. I wish I could do the kids class. I was on part of it last time because I gave an award Give the award to Chaitanya.
Woohoo.
Zeke, you have a question?
Not even from today at all. I had one from the other day, which isn't all that helpful.
It doesn't matter what it's from, as long as I understand the question, I'll try to answer it.
Okay, so the other day we were talking about how when Vishnu comes to Earth, as Krishna, he knows he's God, right?
Yes.
Now, is that the same case for when Ram comes?
Yes.
My understanding was that Ram took birth purposefully and purposefully went through all the hardships of growing up.
Oh, they externally do all these things. They grow up and they behave in a certain way, but there's not a time that they don't know who they are. They all know they're the Supreme Lord. Or in Ram's case, he's also an incarnation of Lord. Krishna is the original Supreme Personality of God, who all the incarnations come from. Balaram is from Krishna, and all the incarnations come from Balaram. But they are fully Vishnu Tattva. It means they have this pretty much the same potencies as the Lord. There's just a very slight difference. It's like candles. If you light one candle, one candle lights 100 candles. They're all one candle power, but one was the original. So that's
I just wasn't sure because I didn't know if Ram knew who he was or not. I was just unsure on the details of that.
Yeah, he knew who he was, and he certainly exhibited that he was God. He built a bridge with floating rocks. He single-handedly killed 10,000 Rakshasas with his bow and arrows, and they're fighting, and they're man-eaters, so they have experience in killing men, but they all died, every single one of them. So he didn't act completely just like an ordinary human. He did amazing things that only God can do. 10,000 warriors. And these were warriors who were, they're warriors. They're not just people, or like, for instance, Ram got monkeys to fight these warriors. The monkeys had trees, branches, rocks to fight these others. And they had swords, lances, bows, arrows. They had like modern technology of warfare at the time. And the monkeys didn't have that. So when Ram fought them, they had all these weapons. They weren't just villagers or farmers. They were warriors. And he killed them all, 10,000. He can shoot the arrows that can block out the sun. That's a lot of arrows. Where do they come from? Out in the forest. They have some arrow factory. They manifest. He has unlimited energy. He can make anything happen. So there was no question in his mind. He wasn't like killing 10,000 and thinking, wow, how am I doing this? Yeah, Ram knows he's the Supreme. All the incarnations. And they usually do wonderful things that only incarnations can do. There's two kinds of incarnations. There's the Vishnu Tattva, what is it, Swamsa? Swamsa and Vivinamsha. But Vivinamsha is also just the living entities. But a living entity can be an incarnation in a sense that he's an empowered incarnation, a Shaktivesh avatar. Like Srila Prabhupada was a Shaktivesh avatar. He was an empowered incarnation to spread Krishna consciousness all over the world. A normal, ordinary devotee can't do that. They have to be empowered by Krishna. Srila Vyasadeva was an incarnation of God, but he was a jiva soul, but he was empowered. He wasn't Vishnu Tattva. He was empowered to perform the task of writing all the Vedic literatures. So there are different incarnations, but Ram is a Vishnu Tattva. He's a Swamsa incarnation. He's got all the potencies of God. We can say all the potencies. There's a few things Krishna does that others don't do. Dancing with the gopis, playing his flute so amazingly. You know, he's got a couple of extra little talents. But he can do anything. Even chopped off somebody's head with his hand. Normally you need a sword or something sharp or really strength, but just with his hand. He's like the first karate guy.
May I ask a question?
You may.
That's
Are we
very
finished?
kind of you. Thank you.
Wait, let me see if we're finished with Zeke.
Sure.
Zeke, does that answer your question?
Yeah, it was good. Thank you.
Okay.
Because sometimes they act like
What?
they're not God just for their loving relationships with the devotees.
Right.
So that might be confusing to people.
Yeah, they act like ordinary human beings in a lot of the cases. Ram was like the perfect king, perfect son. I mean, almost a perfect husband, except he left his wife. He sent her away. And that's the only reason he did that is because he was the perfect king, and it interfered. There was one citizen who was criticizing Ram for taking his wife back after Ravana had kidnapped her. So then he banned his wife when he found out. And I heard everyone in Ayodhya went back to Godhead except for that one person. And also the same thing with Mr. what? Mr. Near, who was a big demon, and there's a big history of him. And for those who were around at the time when we were trying to purchase the Bombay temple, and it's also written in the Leela Mrita about Mr. Nair. And Prabhupada once was talking, and he's saying that, you know, this devotee's going back to God, this devotee's going back to God, this devotee's going back to God. All the devotees are going back to God. He said, except for Mr. Nair. Which I really thought was funny. Okay, well, time is up.
Had a question.
You had a question. We'll try to answer you. We have 2 minutes, so answer it and ask it in like 30 seconds.
That's very kind of you. Thank you so much. So my question is basically, I know that I've read about certain people who have yogi abilities. There are people in Krishna's time who were not God, but had abilities to resurrect the dead and all this. So talking about the modern day, my concern is that there are people who could possibly say they are God, deluded, and have special abilities that they're not using to serve God with, and gain all sorts of like affection from people.
People are cheating people. They have some mystic powers. There's 8 mystic cities. You can make yourself smaller than the smallest. You can reach anywhere in the universe and take something. You can reach to the moon and take something out from the moon. You can do so many powerful things. And a foolish person thinks they're God. But we learn from the Vedic literatures that there's mystic powers you can have. But none of them can show you their Virat Rupa. So that's why we have that to see. We don't ask them to do some amazing feat that we think that we can't do and most people can't do. But you can get mystic powers. It's a fact. And a lot of people are fooled by that.
But we're supposed to be using it to serve Krishna is the thing. And they forget it. And then they're, if they're using it for selfish reasons, they end up hurting themselves karmically.
Generally, if you have mystic powers, you don't even use them to serve Krishna. In some emergency or something, you might use some mystic power if Krishna wants, but generally you don't. The devotees, like it says, pure devotees have all the mystic cities, but the Prabhupada didn't exhibit them. Very, very rarely did he exhibit anything like that.
I mean, he knew the mind of his devotees.
Yeah, he read minds, but that's, and he kind of let you know what you're thinking. So
it was for them.
Right, for preaching. But anyway, we're not fooled by people with mystic powers. I can get away with having mystic powers by just doing some magic tricks, and foolish people believe I really have powers. Not so much in America. In India, simple people can believe that. Of course, they're getting more sophisticated now in India, but I got to find a part of the world where they're not so sophisticated.
I know that
Our time is up. Thank you so much. It's 8 o'clock, a little after 8. We'll have to get your question, or you can call on the phone after this,
Or
afterwards.
save it till next time.
What? Or save it to next time. Thank you all.
I'm
Let's
so
all
blessed. Thank you so much.
to all the devotees of the Lord who are just like desire trees, fulfilling the desires of everyone and are full of compassion for the fallen conditioned souls. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha
कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो
Namo Namaha. Hare Krishna, glory to Srila Prabhupada.
की जय।